Me now, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal. And sir, good morning to you. Welcome back to America's Newsroom.
Bill, good morning. Thank you for having me back.
They use the word terror. Is that enough for you?
No, it's not. Look, certainly the statement was fine as far as it went. Bill, this is what I want to hear. I want to hear President Obama saying that Islam has a problem, and that problem is radical Islam. It is past time for him to be honest with the American people, the enemy that we face. We can't beat this enemy unless we actually define this enemy. Bill, what I want to hear the president say to Muslim leaders is they need to do several things. They need to denounce the individuals committing these acts of violence, make it clear these are not martyrs going to enjoy a reward in the afterlife. He also needs to call on Muslim leaders everywhere to say that they tolerate people of different religious beliefs than their own. It is not enough to condemn generic acts of violence. It's not enough for his administration to say we're going to solve this through better governance, through jobs programs. We face a real enemy in radical Islam. Whether ISIS inspired or guided these two terrorists, it is clear we face a real enemy in radical Islam, and the president, for whatever reason, doesn't like to use those words.
Well, you came on specifically today to do two things. You want the president to condemn this attack, and we can discuss that as well. But how do you know the difference between a taunt and a threat? And I don't know where you are and whether you're drawing more attention to those that we watched over the past 3 days. The other reason you wanted to come on TV today is because you do not believe the administration is acting big enough. Now, what would satisfy you? What do you consider big in this?
Well, Bill, two things. One, in addition to defining the enemy as radical Islamic terrorism and making it clear that individual leaders and clerics must denounce the acts and say they tolerate people of different religious beliefs and they respect, for example, our God-given rights here in America. Secondly, this administration needs to be serious about winning the war against ISIS. He submitted a request, the authorization of use of military force. It's got a 3-year time limit. It bans the use of ground troops. I don't think the commander-in-chief should ever take options off the table. He needs to make it clear we're going to hunt down and kill these terrorists wherever they are. We understand that the nature of the enemy. You look, we've got allies that are willing to work with us if they thought we took this threat more seriously. So, for example, I think Turkey would provide ground troops if they thought we were more committed to getting rid of Assad in Syria. We've got Kurdish allies willing to take on ISIS on the ground if we'll provide them with more weapons, if they understand that we are committed to the long term, not containing, not degrading ISIS, hunting them down and killing them. The president's rhetoric internationally has gotten a little better, but his actions still aren't where we need to be. It makes no sense right now. What Congress can do is approve that authorization of use of military force, take out the 3-year time limit, take out the ban on ground troops. Nobody's saying send in ground troops today, but what we are saying is let's listen to the commanders on the ground. Let's listen to the military officials.
I get the point you're making there. Here at home, what do you make of this report that ISIS says it has terrorists ready to go in 15 different states? It named 5 of them: Virginia, Maryland, Illinois, California, and Michigan. How do we interpret that? How do we read that? How do we track that?
Well, Bill, clearly, if we don't beat this enemy, if we don't hunt down, eradicate this enemy, they are going to try to bring the fight to us. They've made it very clear. They hate our First Amendment rights. They hate our freedoms. They hate us. They are determined to replicate not only the attacks you saw in Texas, the attacks we saw in Australia and Paris. They're determined to bring these attacks to us. That's why we've got to understand that Islam does have a problem in radical Islam. We can't be politically correct about this. We can't avoid going to the source of this threat. That's why it's so important for Muslim leaders to say these individuals are not martyrs. They're not going to enjoy a reward in the afterlife. They need to be very clear. Let's not just condemn the generic acts of violence. Let's condemn the individuals. I want to hear clerics say that we support and tolerate people of other religious beliefs other than our own. That would be a very helpful step in beating this threat abroad and at home.
Governor, thank you for coming in today. You also know that 3 more candidates have signed up for the race for the White House. You're not one of them now. And I know you're going to make a decision at the end of June. It doesn't sound to me like you're running. Is that the case?
Bill, we're looking very seriously at getting into this race. One of the things we have done differently, we have spent the last year and a half thinking what the next president needs to do. We've come up with detailed policies on foreign policy, education, healthcare, energy. A lot of people are thinking about polls, fundraising, consulting. We're actually thinking what the next president needs to do. We need a big change in D.C. If I were to get in this race, we'd be ready on the first day.
That's a maybe then, right? You're not saying yes or no in that answer. What is the answer?
No, we're looking very hard at getting into this race. We'll make that decision as soon as our session is over, which shortly after our session is over, which is June 11th. The difference between me and the announced and potential candidates is we're the only ones with detailed ideas on how to repeal and replace Obamacare. How do we get, you were just talking about why our economy is not growing. We're the only one out there offering detailed ideas on how to get our country back on the right track.
All right, I'm out of time, but thank you for your time today, okay? We'll put you down as a maybe, and we'll stay in contact. Bobby Jindal, thank you,
Thanks,
the
Bill.
governor from Louisiana.